is when you're watching this.
And I am Rudigs, and together we are the Super PlayStation Bros. Thanks for joining. What's going on, David Wilson, the man who gives me the criticisms? Good morning, good morning.
He has been harsh with those criticisms in recent times, hasn't he?
yes, but that's how we go. That's how we do. Keep each other in check. Now, I've put on some footage here to get us started. This is the new God of War DLC Valhalla, my gameplay here. So just having it on in the background. But first, I want to get to the podcast and some housekeeping before we get started. How are you doing this week, and what have you been playing on?
I'm doing very well. It's getting towards that wonderful time of year, Christmas. A different Christmas jumper this week. We've got a bit of Spider-Man ongoing rather than the PlayStation symbols this time round. I do like to mix up my Christmas jumpers. And then game-wise, I have been having a torrid time trying to use the portal, so that is currently gathering dust. Otherwise, I've been all over the show playing all sorts of stuff. I did get the God of War DLC downloaded, so I do want to start Valhalla. I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen a couple of things like the Judges of Hades from the Greek setting and God of War 3, so I'm really interested to get into that, but I haven't been able to touch it yet. I ended up having to do some real life stuff yesterday. The moment it launched, it's like, no, why would you do this to me? So yeah, I haven't touched that one yet. Otherwise, it's been all sorts of different games. A bit of time on Forspoken, quite a bit of time on Gran Turismo 7. I'm loving that VR world. Beat Saber have just announced and released a new track pack that is completely free to all players, and it's got a Dragon Force track in it. Dragon Force have gone out and written a track specifically for Beat Saber, and I nearly lost my arms. I felt like my arms were going to fall off, and I only managed to get through the intro on expert mode. So yeah, that's my new challenge, to try and get through that one. It's intense, very intense. If you've got Beat Saber, boot up original soundtrack 6. It's challenging, very challenging. Well, that's been my week. I've just been trying to lose my arms from the shoulders down sort of thing. What about you, my dear friend? What have you been playing this past week?
Well, definitely I've gone into Final Fantasy 16. The combat has definitely brought me in. When I first looked at it, I was like, I don't want to watch a movie and play a game at the exact same time. It seems so story heavy. And then about like 2 hours into it, I'm like, I need more of this story. What's going on with Sid? Why is everybody smoking blunts? This is a freaking awesome world.
Mr. Urban World, wie geht's, mein Freund? Wie
What's
geht's?
going on, people? Jumping into the chat here, we got Simply Pwned Gaming, Ray the Gaming Cyborg, and Cowboy, King of Entertainment. Let's go. And Mr. Urban World.
We've got a beautiful chat on the go today so far, haven't we? Look at these amazing people turning up. And for all of you who do watch on catch-up, like, I know there's going to be a few people who can't appear for the live, and you do watch on catch-up. You are so appreciated, trust me. We adore you, we love you, and even if you do stick us on the 50-something inch living room television, shenanigans.
Oh, but we have fun. Final Fantasy 16 has been an absolute blast. The combat is, again, something novel. I'm understanding why the Final Fantasy franchise is so massive. Like, how they're able to reinvent themselves over and over again. New story, new gameplay mechanics. It's pretty impressive, and I'll tip my hat to them, because Final Fantasy 16 plays incredibly different than Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
The stories have much different weights. The characters, even the party systems, are completely different. So I'm impressed. I'm blown away. Square Enix is hitting it out of the park with that IP in their newest entries, and I'm enjoying it.
And you've started playing it at a perfect time as well. We've got some DLC that has just launched for it, which gives you a massive dungeon just before the final boss. So you're going to be able to get to play that sort of in order, rather than people like me having to go back and play it out of order a little bit. But yeah, that DLC, really looking forward to getting my hands on that. I've been short of time, unfortunately. I was editing a video to get out on my channel, which I got out start of the week, which was nice, but it meant that I missed out on quite a bit of this DLC and new releases. But yeah, I loved Final Fantasy 16. It's in my top 5 games of the year. If you want to know its exact spot, selfish plug. My link's in the description. I've got a video up for my best and worst games of the year. Please watch. Much appreciated. Love you guys. But yeah, it's in my top 5 games of the year. Final Fantasy 16. Absolutely loved it. The combat's exceptional. The story is sensational. There are aspects of Final Fantasy missing from it, and I do hope they bring that back for 17. But otherwise, I thought it was a fantastic game.
Yeah, I absolutely have to say that we have to get to some housekeeping before we jump more into the show. That's right, before we get into the content of the week, don't forget to support the podcast. There are 3 ways to do that for free. 1, subscribe to the channel. 2, share out the podcast on your social media. And 3, hit that like button to promote the content. And that is the little bit of housekeeping there. God of War Valhalla dropped their DLC, and we have the footage dropping God of War Valhalla. God of War Ragnarok Valhalla DLC dropped, and right now...
Do you want to know the biggest problem with that name?
Yeah, because it's a mouthful. I don't like it.
One, it's a mouthful. It should not be as big a mouthful as it is to say this DLC, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. The problem you face is there's also Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok. It's 2 words that just go different ways round in 2 different DLC. You could have said anything else. Could have called it literally anything else. You could just put it in.
Yeah.
You didn't even need to give it a name.
It's or God of War mode or just something. I don't know, but I get
I don't know,
Valhalla
but
has
yeah.
a lot of connotations.
It's part of the
trials.
Mythologies, isn't it? Yeah.
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 But they upgrade all of your weapons, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's not a worry anyway for me.
Right, but in case you're like, oh, do I have to go play the story to upgrade the weapons? I mean, if you play the game and you play Valhalla and you're spoiled because you have the spear already, I mean, that's kind of your own fault. So I understand the continuity there and why they want you to play the story. Even in Valhalla, I unlocked a new, I don't want to spoil it, but there is something brand new and novel in the Valhalla universe on its own. So be sure to get there and unlock that. And I wonder if that even translates to the main story game. But there's a lot of cool elements. The way you're able to upgrade Kratos, bring up his health, make him have one of those stones on him that recovers him in case you go down. You can start each run with one of those if you're able to get the points. Mini bosses to full bosses. And every time you clear, you get more story. So definitely
Brilliant.
A great expansion. And it's not just some simple roguelike mode. They really put a lot into it.
Love it. That sounds perfect, right up my alley. I love a good roguelike or roguelite game. I really enjoyed Hades, Returnal, even aspects of Deathloop were thoroughly enjoyed by me. But then we're getting the roguelike mode with The Last of Us Part 2 next month. We've got this roguelike mode with God of War Ragnarok now. And it's just adding a replayability to games that you enjoy spending time within, you enjoy the world of, but once I was done with Ragnarok, I was perfectly satisfied. I didn't want any more other than the act of playing the game. Just playing that game is incredibly satisfactory to me, and I wanted more of that. I didn't want more story, I didn't want more in terms of what it's giving me, but this sounds like the perfect balance. It's got a narrative reason to be there, but then it's this replayability roguelike mode. Keep coming back, keep getting better, keep trying harder. It sounds like the sweet spot for something additional to God of War Ragnarok to me.
Absolutely. And it is the sweet spot. It's just action, action, action. And sometimes you just want that. And new bosses too. They spice it up there so you're not just in the same stuff. But let's get on to the news of the week. What's been happening? We have a PS5 Pro leak. And there is some legitimacy to that. FCAT in the house, what's going on? Could have called it God of War Immortals of Avium. Like, that's not a mouthful. FCAT.
Like, we were complaining about one additional word. adding Immortals of Avium to the end of it. That's 3 additional words. This is too many words for a game title.
Now, the reason why I want to give some weight to this PS5 Pro leak is that we have Tom Henderson saying that the leak is going to be happening this month, so may as well release the specs now, because Sony has already provided the PS5 Pro to third-party developers this month. So they're expecting the product to be leaked and all the specs to go along with it, and we have some information here regarding the type of architecture, GPU, CPU. What were your initial thoughts? Did you get to see through the PS5 Pro leaks? Do you hold weight to this, or do you think it's just another rumor in the rumor mill?
I mean, I've been wrong on rumors in the rumor mill this year. I said there's no way we can get either Final Fantasy 16 or God of War Ragnarok DLC because of the way the stories ended, and both development studios told me to shut the hell up in the last week. So I can't say that it's just rumor mill and we shouldn't pay attention to it. If these things are going out into the hands of third-party developers, it would say that the PlayStation 5 Pro is a thing that is on the way. If the specs that have been leaked thus far, this isn't the first leak we've had of PS5 Pro specs, we've had them for the past 3 or 4 months, and even longer, people have been talking about the device. If the specs are to be believed, this is going to be about twice as powerful as the base PlayStation 5, which will make it the most powerful console to ever grace the planet. 1, that's a great thing, but 2, it begs the question of what's the point of it. In terms of what we have in graphic capabilities right now, the most that most gamers can get hold of is 4K. You plug it into your television in your living room, and most people's 4K television is not made within the last 3 years, which is when we've had HDMI 2.1. So most people can only get 4K at 60 frames per second, which is what a lot, if not most of the current crop of PlayStation 5 games are achieving. They're giving you 4K resolution, they're giving you 60 frames a second, and if they're doing lower resolution, you're getting super sampling back up to that 4K through both the console and the TV, so you don't really notice any lack of grunt or power in what you're experiencing on the television, unless you're seeing screen tearing and frame drops. So you know, it's one of those, being more powerful, it's offering you graphics processing up to around the levels of, people are saying, like 40, 70 to 90. They're not being very precise on that in terms of what's available, but more graphics processing would mean higher resolutions or even higher frame rates. So doing 4K at 120 might even be possible. But again, you've got to have people who have got this kit to take advantage of that, and so many people in the player base, myself included, yourself, like, you can't even take advantage of the 4K 60 HDR just yet, as far as I understand it from what you've said in the past with your monitor. So there's a lot of people that it makes no sense for, because you can't take any more advantage of that console than you can of the current console. So yeah, it sounds great in terms of just raw horsepower, but I'm still struggling as a consumer, as someone who bought a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 4 Pro in the last generation. I'm struggling to see the point or need or want for one of these devices. That's my only sort of issue. It's obviously happening if it's going into the hand of third-party publishers, probably some point in the next 12 months.
Well, I mean, we have the latest news article here where Avatar Pandora's, what's it called?
Mists of Pandora? It's a Ubi title, who cares?
That game brought a 4090 to its knees when benchmarking it on the ultra high settings of the graphics mode. And so we're entering a realm where these games are going off on their development, and millions of shaders and just going crazy, and these systems can't even handle it. So I think to even handle, you know, Grand Theft Auto 6 coming up and the massive size file, this software, we're going to need this raw horsepower to even achieve the 30 FPS on these consoles.
Nah, it can't be the case. It literally can't be the case. We are in a console generation. These console generations last for at least 6 years. I think the shortest one I've ever seen is 6 years. The longest one we saw was the last generation, going around the 8, maybe 9 years. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense to then design a game that these consoles can't run. If you design a game and put it out into the world that the base PlayStation 5 can't run, that the base Xbox Series X can't run, that the base Series S can't run because it needs to run on that generation as well, you are screwing yourself out of so many potential buyers. If you need to have a PlayStation 5 Pro, a 4090 and all this sort of stuff, you're only dealing with the 1%, the top 1% of players, those people who can take advantage, who have the money, who have all of the ability to take advantage of this. The rest of your market base, the other 99%, you are then shooting in the foot and saying, F off, we don't want you because you can't run our game at these super duper graphics. It makes no sense for anybody to design a game that way. By all means, have the ability to crank it up, to bring a 4090 to its knees, and that was the Avatar Mists of Pandora was cranked up to ultra settings on literally everything. But a 4090 can run Cyberpunk 2077 on the insane settings without breaking a sweat, which to me says the Avatar game is just poorly optimized for PC, despite how graphically beautiful it is. If you are creating a game, you make it for the lowest common denominator that you are launching it on, which, if it's something like GTA 6, that is going to be the base PlayStation 5, the base Series X, and the base Series S. They try and design those out of usability, they're not selling any games. Pure and simple.
What up, Obi? Thanks for coming on by. Hope you're doing well, good sir. Cowboy asks, what about the people it does make sense for? Also, I feel like the developers are going to be able to push their games further. Well, I think also what we're seeing here is a glimpse into the next generation, because PS4 Pro was able to run God of War Ragnarok, right? So what we're going to see here is architecture put in place for the PS6 games we're going to be seeing in the future to be able to run at a decent rate, so these consoles will be able to carry that 10 life year span cycle. So hey, they do this because people will buy it at the end of the day, right? I mean, they know people are going to buy this hardware. I think this could spell huge for VR. It could really up VR capabilities and enhance, raw power coming there. So, we don't even know what Sony's coming up with. They could have some other tricks, some other hardware. As we've seen, this year has been a huge hardware year for them. So the unknown is always there. And a more powerful console, I think, is an argument to be made on its own. Maybe now we'll get to experience games on high and ultra settings versus your typical console experience, which I feel is more of like a medium PC graphical experience. But who knows? It's just my experience as a gamer. We'll keep you updated, but a lot of the information says they're going up in teraflops, they're going up in graphic capabilities. The CPU is going to be staying the same. They're all about
questionable
ray tracing
with everything else increasing.
Maybe they over-designed it in the beginning. I'm not a software engineer.
But if you ask anybody with a PC with the sort of parity sort of CPU, it's going to be a bottleneck with all of these other increases. It's like questionable. And we've seen questionable design choices from Sony this year in the Portal. They put a Snapdragon 662 in that device, which is a terrible chipset. So is it just cheaping out to make an extra buck? Or is it actually perfectly acceptable for what they're doing elsewise?
I guess it must be. I mean, they have the engineers to say, yes, this will work. They're working off of here what they're saying is a Trinity system, so they want to prioritize fast storage. That's your SSD. And then they want to prioritize ray tracing. They really are all about ray tracing all over this league, saying we want to up that and upscaling, AI upscaling. And I guess maybe we'll see these frame rates artificially bolstered up, which will be great for us gamers. So I look forward to it, and we'll keep you updated. Is there anything more you wanted to say on the PS5 Pro leak?
No, other than Sony, please send us one each so that we can actually speak on this in depth and knowledgeably rather than conjecturally, and I don't have the money to buy a new one.
Yeah. Well, if I get a new one, my brother gets my old one, but
Touche,
see if
fair
that
play.
even happens. That's the only justification I have right now.
So if we go back to chat,
let's
we've
jump
got
into chat. What's up?
yeah. So we've got Wibble saying afternoon. Hi Wibble. We've got Geek the
Wibble.
Sneak sneaking in. Hi Geek. FCAT is saying it's magical SSD that's sorting everything. That's directly at me, that one. But Cowboy asks, what do you say about PC? Because that's how PC is. I'm assuming he's referring to my little thing on the 1% and what have you. But I think the games will be able to run on the base PS5, but it'll look better on the Pro, and it's just like the PS4 Pro. Yeah, but you still have to design for the base level product, because the most prolific GPUs on the market in terms of PC are still the 1060 and 1660. You design for those because that is where your biggest market share of players is going to come from. Yes, you have the ability for it to go up to the 4090. You add those nice little tasty bits on at the end afterwards, but your basic design is for your lowest common denominator. So they will be designed for these base level systems, for these base level GPUs, these base level CPUs that are the most common within the market.
Yeah, lowest common denominator. That's what people design for. Well, let's get into the Game Awards.
Game Awards! Yeah, that happened last week, didn't it?
It did. And we had some cool releases, some things dropping, lots of trailers. That was probably the most exciting thing. The awards themselves, PlayStation didn't come up as large as they typically have in previous years. However, a lot of nominations, a couple wins, and some good showings. Most anticipated game is a great thing for Final Fantasy, so a lot of cool stuff. 7 nominations, again, nothing to bat your eyes at. I mean, being nominated is a great thing, in my opinion, so cheers to them.
100%, yeah. The Game Awards, I don't think they should exist after the debacle we had last week. A 3.5-hour showcase with so many awards that were just quick fired off without people getting to even go up on stage and accept their awards. They didn't even get given their trophies during the show. And then anybody who did win getting shuffled off the stage, pushed off the stage within 30 seconds of starting to talk to thank all of these amazing people who made these titles. The show was a debacle. It was a disgrace, and it should not be run that way ever again. It needs to make massive changes or disappear, in my eyes. In terms of what was announced, though, there was some good, exciting stuff that came along during the show. Obviously, we got news of the 2 DLCs we've already talked about for Final Fantasy 16 and God of War Ragnarok. But we got things like release dates in March 2024 for Rise of the Ronin, which is one of my personal most anticipated games of 2024 from Team Ninja, of all people. I am going to smash my head against a wall in that game, but it looks so damn good. And I'm querying whether it has co-op with that trailer that we got, which is going to be very interesting. There was so much good stuff announced. Hideo Kojima with his new Xbox title called OD, with lots of hints of PT to it, with like words in the mouth and the doors in people's eyes and such. So it looks like...
Sorry, what's PT? What are you saying?
PT is a cultural phenomenon. At one point in history, Konami were going to make a new Silent Hill game with Kojima at the helm and Norman Reedus in the lead role. This was happening whilst they were at odds with Kojima during the development of Metal Gear Solid 5. So they made this sort of vertical slice trailer type thing, and it was one of the most terrifying games on the PlayStation 3 system. If you go and try and buy a PlayStation 3 with PT on it, because you cannot get it anymore, it does not exist in the world. It was removed from every storefront. It was deleted everywhere. If you deleted it from your console, you could never get it back. So if you try and go and buy a PlayStation 3 with PT installed, they are going for thousands of dollars. They are ridiculously expensive because that is the cultural phenomenon moment that this demo created. It got people excited for the horror genre once more. And it looks like OD is the spiritual same thing as PT was, but this is going to be a cloud native Xbox exclusive game from Kojima, which, okay, screwed over for us PlayStation guys, but hey, it's interesting. It just didn't need 15 minutes of the show dedicated to it.
So there'll be no resale of this game because there'll be no
Nope.
physical copy and they'll pull it whenever they want to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the same issue. This whole discussion we had last week about digital ownership. Yeah, it's possibly problematic, but it gives him scope to do whatever the heck he wants with whatever sort of power. And if you can let that man go, you let that man go.
Absolutely. Hey, but one thing I will say, I had a bit of an issue with the Game Awards, and I will agree, not enough time on the games they were actually awarding, and too much focus was given to the Xbox game trailers. I'm sorry, but just have your own separate showcase. It too many trailers. There was just too many trailers, and like it didn't need to be like that. You can have a section where you have trailers, but you need to give time to honor the people who made these awards. Like you don't see that in the Grammys where you have
No.
constant trailers of new stuff happening. No, you're there to hear these people, see who develop. I wanted to see the team behind Armored Core and see them celebrate and hold up a trophy and win. But no, it was just 2 seconds. And the winner is Armored Core. And then boom, next. And that was best action game of the year. I'm sorry, but you should have more. We should have more for these game awards, not some trailer fest. That's what showcases are for.
Yeah, we've got the Summer Games Fest for showcases. We've got things like Nintendo Directs, Nintendo Treehouses. We've got these Xbox Direct showcases. We've got our State of Plays and our showcases that tell you what's coming up for the next 12 months, that sort of thing. So an award show should be about the awards. If you go to the Country Music Awards, it's about the awards. Yes, there is music there. There is people playing music, but it's generally the music that's winning the awards. If you go to the Oscars, it's about the awards. It's about people winning these Oscars. It's not giving you trailers for the next upcoming amazing movie that might win an Oscar next year and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those. Either make it this amazing end of year, this is what's coming next, or make it an amazing end of year, this is the greatness we've had through the previous year, or do both. Like both can exist. It is possible, but when you're trying to mix them together, it loses all impetus, meaning, and impact. That there was no award that had a moment like Chris Judge last year with his 8-minute speech. And I realized they didn't want to get another 8-minute speech, but you could put a limit of 3 minutes on a speech rather than 30 seconds and then a big teleprompter sign up behind Jeff Keighley saying, please move on. It was a disgusting show, all in all. But there was some good stuff to come out of it for us gamers. I also hate, though, just to bring it back to disappointments about it, that not a single thing was said about the decimation of the gaming industry this year. We've lost nearly 10,000 people from the gaming industry. 10,000 developers have lost their jobs this year. And not a single word was said at one of the biggest events in gaming in the year about this despicable practice. What the hell, Jeff? What the hell?
It was poorly presented, poorly directed. I feel like they need to rework the script, the production, because what it is now is kind of messy, and it doesn't really give time to the awards, like we're saying. So, but what about the actual content? Speaking of all the trailers we're bitching about, what was something that like stood out to you that you're uber excited to see on the horizon? What stood out to you? And it wasn't Skull and Bones, the one that just.
It really was not Skull and Bones. I was excited for Skull and Bones in 2014. I am not excited for it in 2023. Sorry, nearly 10 years of development, and you're giving me a lesser game than you gave me 10 years ago. I'm not on board, guys. Sorry. Two of the biggest ones for me were Rise of the Ronin, coming in March 2024. I have been excited for that game since it was announced last year at the tail end of 2022. Really looking forward to that one from Team Ninja. And I sort of expected it to appear, but a new home console, fully fledged Monster Hunter. Wibblesniff, Crash Echo, and myself put a lot of time into Monster Hunter World. We had a really good time together. It was one of the only times where I have nearly quit a game in pure unadulterated rage. Wibble still laughs about it to this day, but I'm glad I persevered and got through that and had such a good time with these guys playing that. So the new Monster Hunter coming in 2025 looks ace. Obviously, God of War Ragnarok DLC. I think God of War Ragnarok is nearly the best perfect game that we've ever received. It's the best thing I've ever played. So very much looking forward to getting my hands on that. Hopefully at the end of work today, if life doesn't take over. But otherwise, there wasn't really anything that sort of jumped out and said, oh, you must own me now, or you must be really excited now. But there was a lot of things that were, oh, yeah, that could be good. I'll keep my eye on that one, keep my eye on that one, and this sort of stuff. And there was a lot of stuff that I knew would be big for people who aren't myself, other sorts of gamers, especially things like the Sega announcement of bringing a lot of their old IPs back and renewing them, refreshing them, and releasing new entries into them.
And for me, I would have to say my biggest anticipated game coming out on that Game Awards, and that's just because my biggest hype for No Man's Sky is Light No Fire. This game looks to be epic. It looks to be grand in scale. I know people are saying, oh, on launch, this thing is going to be broken and destroyed.
They've got a track record here, yeah.
Okay. I played No Man's Sky 7 years in, and it was flawless and amazing. And so I'm hoping that they've learned from these mistakes, and they're going to release a game that runs great and fantastic. Running around with your friends in this open world, it looks like the combat they've got right, controlling the animals. It gives me that Ark feeling, but more No Man's Sky-ish, colorful, vibrant. That addictive loop that they're able to create, I think, will be a lot of fun. So this one has me excited and hyped, and I think they've learned from their lessons, and it won't be broken.
I hope so, because No Man's Sky is worthy of praise now, but we should never forget the over-promising, under-delivering, broken mess that it was at launch. And if we're getting annoyed about other games that launch in a broken state, we should remember the ones that, even though they're good now, they were a catastrophe at launch. Unfortunately, you are only ever as good as your previous release, and No Man's Sky was the studio's previous release. I mean, they're still updating it, they're still adding more to it, but that was the previous release, and that release was awful. So fingers crossed, they have learned their lessons, they don't repeat it, but it's not one that I am going to be picking up immediately. It's one I need to wait and see on its state at launch to see if it's worth putting my money down on it.
Now, I have a question you may not be prepared for, and of course, all of that is perfectly understandable. I mean, how could you not be burned by them if you played No Man's Sky in the beginning, right? But here's my question to you. What game were you expecting to see and didn't see on the Game Awards?
I don't think there was anything. I wasn't expecting to see anything. I'd heard a lot of rumors. I'd seen a lot of leaks and insider information, what have you. But I wasn't really expecting to see anything. Everybody's like, oh, Sony's going to bring their next amazing new IP, and people were saying that Xbox is going to blow everybody away. And it's like, you're going to be disappointed if you're going in with those expectations. I expected to see Monster Hunter. I saw Monster Hunter. I didn't expect to see God of War. I'm glad we got what we got. It felt like the right amount, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been disappointed if we didn't see it. There was nothing that I sort of expected to see, but we didn't see. There was stuff that I never thought I would see, like Blade, for example. I believe that might have been on Just. Blade coming out and probably going to be an Xbox exclusive is great. It means people have to move around for the Marvel universe and what have you. My only problem there is it's made by Arcane, who made Deathloop and Redfall, two god-awful games. And again, you're only as good as your last release. Theirs wasn't even classified as a video game, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's one of those. It's like, there's nothing really that appeared that I wasn't expecting or didn't appear that I was expecting. I tried to go in with no expectations, and because I was asleep during the event, I could just read it all in a nice little neat article the morning after.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted badly to see the Elden Ring DLC, but I knew a couple days before the show they said, "Hold on, you're not going to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see this." I wanted to see the Ninja Turtles game. The what was it called?
The Last
Why am I
Ronin.
thinking? Is it also called the last? Are we getting two games called the Last Ronin?
One is The Last Ronin, one is Rise of the Ronin. So The Last Ronin is your Ninja Turtles one based on the phenomenal graphic novel from DC. If you get a chance to read that, please do. I implore everybody to read that story. It's phenomenal. The other one
Hey,
is
Miss
Rise of the Ronin. That
Phoenix.
is the Team Ninja PlayStation exclusive game.
Okay. So yeah, I definitely want to check out the comic book, but I wanted to see some Ninja Turtle action. I thought that would have been cool to see. But those are the two things that stand out to me that I probably would have wanted to see more of. But other than that, I think incredibly impressed. There's a lot of games I'm seeing here which look high octane. The first Descendant is looking amazing. I played the
Can I
demo.
just
It was a lot of fun.
can I say two words that
What's
are
that?
very nostalgic for us 90s children?
Let's go.
Golden Axe is coming back. Golden Axe. Bring it on. I played so much Golden Axe on the Mega Drive. I love that game to bits. I am looking forward to a new installment. Bring it. Bring it.
Also, the finals was released a free-to-play 3v3v3. Really impressive shooter, great mechanics, made by Battlefield employees. It's a great-looking game, and you should definitely get in and try it if you haven't. But yeah, a lot of great takeaways. I'm glad the Game of the Year awards happen. Let's hope for a better produced show next year with my armchair criticisms.
Yeah, let's get rid of Jeff Keighley and it'll probably be a better show, won't it?
Well, let's get into some more PlayStation news of the week before time escapes us. Bungie devs say atmosphere is soul-crushing amid layoffs, cuts, and fear of total Sony takeover. Now, this article reads as like horrifying that Bungie may lose the direction of their ship, and Sony may be taking full reins of Marathon and Matter going into the future. It's
unsurprising, isn't it? You lay off as many people as you do in the deplorable way that you do. So a day before they can get their shares payout, you lay them off. And there's some people, you've called them into the office because they need to have this meeting to say they've no longer got a job, but they know about it before they've got there because you've not done it in any form of professional manner. And there's no severance pay, there's no nothing beyond, oh, bye, there's the door. Of course it's going to be a soul-crushing environment. Of course things are going to feel like a crock for a while. And yes, the fear of Sony takeover is there. I'm quite sure that is what was signed into the takeover contract. They already own the studio. They just let it have its autonomy. But when you are missing your, projections by nearly half, nearly 50%, like, I don't understand how you do that. I don't understand how you project so high and hit so low. It's unachievable in my mind. Like, it's unrealistic, and there are going to be soul-crushing moments. You have got to do the same amount of work to release a new expansion in 2024 as you had to do the previous year, just with less people, less skill on the ground, less knowledge on the ground, less bodies on the ground, just people picking up the basic work that they aren't there. So everybody's going to have to pick up a little bit more work, and they're not going to be remunerated any further for that. They're getting exactly the same amount of pay as they were for the last release. And they've then got 2 additional games that are also in development at the studio that also need to now make it across the finish line with less hands on deck. I'm not surprised that they're describing it as soul destroying and they are fearful of a full Sony takeover. And I don't know whether a full Sony takeover would be the right thing, but they do already seem like a ship without a captain, like a ship without a helmsman. So maybe someone just taking the reins and steering it at least straight and true for a little while would be a good thing. But then, of course, they just become another part of the corporate monster that is Sony, and we lose out on more unique experiences. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I'm not surprised in the atmosphere at all.
Yeah, I mean, just reading this, Sony has made some changes, including studio-wide hiring freezes, reduced travel budget, elimination of holiday bonuses, as well as, and this seems so brutal, but the Bungie Day making it virtual, delaying its week-long company I can't say it, but a huge event where they all got together and was like massive for building this team camaraderie, and they just make it virtual. I mean, it's just cutting costs here, there, and everywhere, and even delaying the final shape until 2024. I just think that they bought something, they didn't know what was under the hood, and now they're having to remake the whole car, and the only way they know how to do it is to make it the Sony way. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you get bought out by other companies. I think we
Yeah.
may see this on the Xbox side as well with their most recent purchases, but not too sure. Every company plays out differently. But yeah, this is what's happening in Bungie right now.
Yeah, it's very sad to hear. It's another one of those moments of a god-awful year in gaming. No matter how good the games are that we got, people have paid the price to get us there, and they're no longer getting paid because of that. We are very much in a situation where the gaming industry is trying to implode itself because you have got money makers in the positions of power, and you need gamers in the position of power, people who understand the industry, how it works, how things get out the door, how many workers you need to complete a project, and what that sort of finance cost is and return that you can get on it. When you've got people who understand it from the ground up, you have a better run industry. And right now we don't have that. We have CEOs in place who've always been CEOs who only know how to follow money trails. So we're chasing trends constantly. No one is setting a trend. We're chasing trends that nobody actually wants anymore. We are seeing this live service bubble pop, and we have still got companies trying to sell us live service games. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants a new live service game. We're happy with the ones we've got. What we want now is a different experience that we can unclick from that live service experience to have something different. And if these companies all end up under different corporate leadership, whether it's blue, whether it's green, whether it's red, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to see a circle of chasing trends that nobody wants because they're doing it off archaic, outdated metrics.
Yeah, and Wibble makes a good point. It's Destiny does feel like a Blizzard. It almost feels like a Diablo type of game where it's just do what's in front of you, a checklist of things. And so what we want to see as gamers is innovation, new, exciting. Witch Queen brought new life into Destiny 2, and they didn't capitalize on that like they should have. With their next expansion, Lightfall, it was so poorly received and felt so hollow and empty and non-impactful that it took the wind out of me for Destiny 2. And I just think, man, it's a bit tough to see. They need new life, but it's hard to do while you're actively being eroded. So it's
very hard to do.
Out of.
And everything so far, it's all under Bungie leadership. It's not something that Sony has done. It's all stuff that Bungie have done. And maybe it is time for Sony to step in and say, right, let's try things the Sony way. Might improve things.
And like you said, I mean, people are now predicting these extraction shooters are going to be the next big trend. And that's going to be every game coming out soon. And it's like, stop trying to predict trends and just make good games for good games, good stories, good elements, good game mechanics. I think we need to get back to that before we just try to hop in trends. As we saw, Sony canceled or delayed half of the live service games they had predicted. They had 12 supposed to come out before the end of 2025. Now we're going to see 6 come out before 2025, and to me, that's too many.
It's about 3 too many.
Yeah. Well, The next story is not much better, Doragon.
No, news has not been great this week, has it? Like, you had the Game Awards with some nice trailers, but then everything else was back to the normal.
We have Wolverine getting hacked. Some Insomniac leaks.
Yeah, so
this
Insomniac this week. No, it's not, because this week they have been the subject of a full-on cyber attack, and a lot of information has been stolen. A lot of Wolverine videos and images have been stolen. They didn't get source code from what I'm reading, which is a positive that way. Not that it makes much difference to anybody anyhow, getting the source code for it. Like, yeah, you could maybe build a knockoff version, but it's not going to be as good as the real finished product. But more importantly, and again, it comes down to the same factor, they stole employee information, individual employees' information, everything from their social security numbers to their home addresses. And they're asking for, is it like, I don't know, some bollocks crypto that they're asking for in a ransom for it.
If you have 50 bitcoins, you can be the owner of the Insomniac leak documents.
It had to be a crypto idiot, didn't it? It had to be a crypto fool. Of course it was. So yeah, they've hacked Insomniac. They're now asking for crypto as a payment structure because, you know, it's unregulated. They can do illegal actions with crypto because no one's policing it. And it's one of those, I don't care so much about the Wolverine source. Like, look at Grand Theft Auto 6. All that information was stolen by a 16-year-old lad in his bedroom here in England. But it didn't dull the hype for Grand Theft Auto 6 for anybody. That trailer now has well over like 6 or 7 million views or something. So, you know, the Wolverine code and videos and images being stolen, that's fine. That'll still bring hype. Like, even the negative press there is good press because you'll see stuff of the game that you hadn't seen previously, and that gets people worked up into a hype. But yeah, people's individual details, like important details to them that could lead to identity theft.
That was the
I hope
part.
these people burn. I hope the people who did this burn.
The information of the employees was not the right thing to do.
No.
It's an extremely unfortunate situation. It's interesting that the GTA hack did in fact lead to prison time for the hacker. However, the hacker is quoted saying, once he's out of prison, he'll go right back to hacking. So I don't get it. If this is what you want to do, go for it. If anything, it just brings more hype to the game. I'm glad to hear that they're still making Wolverine. We haven't heard anything since 2021 on this, so it's good to hear that there's progress happening. Let's go. Let's get some more trailers out there. But hate to see the hack, and hopefully this stuff can just be put to rest, because stop hacking Sony, people. Come on. I
mean, Sony should probably improve their cybersecurity if this keeps happening. Just saying. Yeah. I work in big tech. I work in an area that has a hackathon every year. We literally invite people to come and hack us. And if they do, we give them a job to improve our security. And we do this every 12 months. I think we've actually increased it to every 6 months. But we have to have that level of security. Like, Sony, come on. Do something. You're one of the biggest tech companies in the world. Your cybersecurity should be better than this.
I agree. Well, if you want to see the leaks and we don't condone it, I did read in the article that they are blurry and on Reddit, so you can take a look there if you want to go hunting. I myself am going to stay away from it. I don't want to be spoiled. I want to wait to see what Insomniac has to show me before I get into it.
Fair play.
We have a bit of a special thing happening on PlayStation for fighting fans that you shared with me.
Indeed. Tekken 8 is getting, is it tomorrow? I want to say a demo on the PlayStation Store.
December 14th. I don't see what day it is today.
It's the 13th today. So yeah, December 14th, tomorrow, if you're watching this live, we are getting a demo of Tekken 8 on the PlayStation Store that anybody is able and free to download and play. It is going to other platforms, but it's a week later that they are all getting it. So a week of exclusive Tekken 8 gameplay and content for PlayStation players. Get on it, guys, and enjoy yourselves.
Pretty awesome. I mean, this is obviously a bit of a flex with PS5 having the first release and then Steam and Xbox coming a week later. But
sorry, have you seen Phoenix's response in the chat?
So this is why Sean has the 15th booked off. Yes, it's to play Tekken 8 demo. Come on.
100%. That's why your fella's got this Friday off. It's not to do Christmas shopping for you. It's to play Tekken 8.
Obi, look forward to hopefully the Cantina opening the doors for this Tekken 8 demo. Will be cool to see what Tekken has done for the 8th iteration of their game. Again, big flex for the Sony team, getting that week early. You can obviously tell that this game will be optimized for the PS5. But that's just my deduction from this.
Bandai Namco have always had a... Is it Bandai Namco that do this one? I can't remember. The Tekken series, at least, has always had a really good relationship with PlayStation. The first 3 were PlayStation exclusives, for example. And then they've always released games on their handhelds and other aspects. So, yeah, like, there's a good relationship between them and this little, oh, can we have it a little bit earlier? Yeah, why not? It's not really that big a deal to make of it. And, yeah, okay, it's nice to hold it over someone in a silly little argument, but it just means people get to play a little bit longer on a console that's got a little bit more permutation than the other ones, which makes perfect sense.
I was reading into the Grand Theft Auto 6 development and the fact that there was a Reddit story saying that the GTA 6 is being developed first and optimized for PlayStation 5 due to that is where they are going to sell the most copies. So let's optimize and make it the best experience there first. So I like to hear that.
Comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the PlayStation 5 Pro. You can have that PlayStation 5 Pro, but people aren't... That's not going to be the biggest player base. Your biggest player base is going to be your base PlayStation 5, so they're going to design the game for that. And it's exactly the same when you're a multi-platform game. You design it first and foremost for the platform where most people are going to be playing. Just makes perfect sense from a design and workflow perspective.
Wibblesniv. GTA 5 still isn't optimized for PC. Oh, sorry to hear it. Sorry to hear it.
It's all right. You'll just have to dust your PlayStation off and play on there, mate.
Well, we have Alan Wake 2 gets a new Game Plus mode and the final draft. Oh, it's titled The Final Draft. Available today. So I've heard Callie talk a lot about this, and I did a little bit of research into it. There's a brand new difficulty setting that they're adding to Alan Wake 2. In addition, there is an alternate ending for this game now put into it. So, I mean, that experience alone is going to get a lot of people to go through this game and find that narrative ending, winning, you know, best narrative of the year, best art direction, best game direction. If you have played the Alan Wake 2 game, you'll see it is a novel experience. The FBC, the Federal Bureau of Control, is intuitive. Like, it's just curious. Like, you want to know more about it. There's always that back of your mind conspiracy was really in the shadows, and this game really plays on that and lets you explore that. So there's a lot of experiences here that are pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's not a game that has yet crossed my path. I have got too much else going on, and I probably need to play the first one before playing the second one. I know you don't need to. They've built it in a way that you can discern what happened in the first one by playing the second one, which is great. But I love that it's like the New Game Plus is canonical because you get that different ending on it. I like that. I like that there's a reason to go and do it other than I just want more game time in the game, which, you know, is a perfectly valid reason to play a game. You want more game time. But to give people that little bit more by giving them a different ending, I think that's great. I think it's ingenious, and I think it's that little carrot on the end of the stick that a lot of people need when they are enjoying playing a game, but they need a purpose to be doing it. And there's a lot of folks out there like that. So I think this is a great move.
Yeah, yes, it is. A lot of people enjoyed the Alan Wake series, and it's a good one. I loved Control, though. Control was my favorite experience in the Remedy universe. We have
Very good game, yeah.
We have a sad. No, this is the sad one. E3 dead. No extra lives.
Am I the only one who doesn't care? I have seen a lot of people be really sad about E3 dying, and I'm sat here like, didn't it die like 5 years ago?
I don't know. Going to a big expo is fun. It's
You
good for
didn't
the
get to
industry.
go though. That's
I know,
the
and I'm
thing.
upset about it. I wanted a press pass for Super PlayStation Bros. That would have been awesome.
So, for me, E3 had its time, it had its place, and it was wonderful for many years. For about 15 of its 20 years that it was alive, it was wonderful because there was no other way to get video game news on the scale that E3 gave it to us. It was built as this amazing press event. So everybody went, like a lot of the magazines that we read about what games were coming next in, they'd already gone to monthly releases rather than weekly releases because they just didn't have enough to say. And so the industry got together and they created an event where everybody gathered in the middle of the year. You laid out what was coming for the next 12 months. And then that gave these magazines, these publications, something to talk about, at least one big article every single month to feed to us, the players, at the end of the day. And that was wonderful. But then with the internet age starting in the early 2000s, E3 went digital and it started showing these events to us directly. Yes, your press was still there. The press still went hands-on and gave you impressions and ideas that you couldn't get from just watching these trailers on a screen. And that was still wonderful. But as it advanced, as it got, the world changed even more, as these consoles got even better and internet connections got even better, I ended up playing Destiny 1 whilst the announcement of Destiny 1 was still ongoing. That's the point we got to. At that point, I don't need anybody on the show floor to tell me what Destiny feels like because I've got it in my own hands. E3 has done its job directly to me. But then the big three started pulling out. Nintendo went at the start of the Switch era, around 2017. They stopped appearing at E3 and they did their own treehouse every June. It was around the E3 time, and they made sure it went in with the mix of E3 shows. But they didn't appear. They weren't on the show floor. They weren't at E3 itself. They were doing a virtual treehouse themselves. Then Sony stopped going in 2018, and they started doing their showcases and states of play. And then last year, or this year rather, when it was meant to come back after the pandemic, having not appeared since 2020, then Microsoft pulled out. When your big three platforms aren't even there, there's no point of a show like this. You've only got a few publishers there available, and I haven't paid attention to E3 since around 2018 anyway, because there were better shows happening from these platform holders outside of E3. I thought they'd announced this 6+ months ago, and yet here we are suddenly mourning the loss of something that nobody cared about for the last 5 years anyway. It's not this big cultural impact that people think it is. We are like the 1%. We are the hyper in tune gamers who want to stay up to date on all of this information. For 99% of gamers, they couldn't even tell you what E3 is, let alone what it stands for. It means nothing to them. All they care about is there a trailer on YouTube of a game that I'm interested in, or can I find new game trailers on YouTube? Yeah, YouTube has beaten E3 into dust because it's persistent. It's always there and it's readily accessible.
Yeah, YouTube has really put a nail in that coffin. You're not wrong about that. But I'll miss it because I'll never get to go, and there's nothing like a big gathering of people in the industry. As sad as it is, I mean, it is a good experience to have. But hey, that's how it goes. Times are changing. There'll be a time where people will stop watching YouTube, and it'll be like, oh, I just get it beamed directly into my eyeball or my ocular dimension. So,
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a corporate entity that made millions upon millions per year that I don't get people's emotional attachment to personally. We still get the information. In fact, we get it in more regular doses now. I'm fine with the way things have gone. I think it's very much industry vets who are feeling the loss of this more than gamers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's touch on some celebrations here. God of War Ragnarok tops 15 million units sold. So this was the driving force and the big thank you to us, the gamers, and why their reasoning for us receiving Valhalla. Now, that is the reason I say they were going the free route, is because they hit 15 million units. So per se, I don't know if this was already put out in front of time, but this is what we're hearing from Santa Monica Studios. It's a big thank you for hitting 15 mil sales, and just an absolute astonishing number for a PlayStation exclusive game. And it's great
in just 12 months as well. Bear in mind, it's a 2022 release. It's exclusive, so it's only available on PS4 and 5, which is that's a stupendous figure. That's absolutely huge. That has made all development costs back for the main game and the DLC, and is probably going to pay for whatever they do next. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's great to see, and huge numbers, and I only hope Forspoken hits the exact same milestone this January on their 1-year release. Let's go Forspoken!
We're aware, Wibble. We can see Stream Elements bot. It seems to be having a bit of a moment. I don't know where it's running to.
What is it doing?
It's running. It's running. It's running. It's running.
I run.
And it's running, yeah.
I run so far away.
It's on a good old jolly jaunt to somewhere at some form of fast leg speed.
Oh, well, that's what we have for this week. Let me check the notes, and I want to check the PlayStation blog because we should be getting the games for this week, but we won't get them in time.
Look, it's going to happen half an hour after we finish the show. Every single week, every single time, we hold off to try and get some information. Half an hour after the show, they release the information. So if you really want to know what's coming up on PlayStation Extra and Premium on the Plus tiers, half an hour after the show ends, no matter when we end, we could end now and it'll be in half an hour. We could end at past and it'll be in half an hour. When the show ends, half an hour later, you'll find out everything you need to know about what's coming onto PS Plus Extra and Premium this month.
Oh, it irks me because I know it'll happen. If we stop the show at 11:30, it'll be come out at 12. If we stop the show at 11, it'll come out at 11:30.
We could run to 12 and it would come out at 12:30. Guarantee.
Yeah. So I don't have that news for you.
They don't like us. That's what I'm feeling here, Rue. They don't like us.
Yeah.
Or it's become such a meme internally that they're doing it on purpose.
All right. Well, the biggest takeaway I have here, Rise of the Ronin. You can get the digital deluxe edition pre-order, available to play March 22nd, 2024. So if you're looking to pre-order and get some excitement going on, that's the way to do it. Otherwise, get into some Valhalla, get into some Final Fantasy 16, new DLCs to freshen up the game, or shoot it up in the finals with David Wilson in Cyborg City.
Indeed, indeed.
Anything more you wanted to chat on for this week in PlayStation?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. We've got our little annoyances out. We've accepted some wondrousness, and well, we've only got 1 week left this year, don't we?
Yep, there's only one more week left. The Super PlayStation Bros will be having a special episode. So check social medias to see updates on that. And we'll be coming at you next week for our end of year episode. And Stream Elements bot will be running.
Somewhere. Well, hopefully it's found where it's running to by that point.
Well, thanks for contributing to chat, Stream Elements bot. And you keep running. All right, Dorgon, what do you got going on? What's some content? Any new videos we should be checking out? How's it going over on the Dorgon channel?
My end of year best and worst video has gone up. It's my last video for 2023. There's a lovely thank you to all of you guys, the viewers, at the end of it. So if you want to go watch that and watch through to the end, that would mean the absolute world to me. I liked it. I thought it was a good video. I hope you guys do too. And then I'm looking to start probably the second week of January, start reposting new videos and such. There's probably going to be a short going up in the meantime about years in review. So things like your PlayStation year in review, Xbox, YouTube have done one for me as well. So massive for seeing how I've improved here on the YouTube side of things. So maybe that, but otherwise just any of my content that you want to watch means the world. And thank you so much to everybody who does do so. And even this here on Cloud and Console, Super PlayStation Brothers, this has been an amazing thing through 2023. Thank you for suggesting it, Rue, and thank you for you lot, like 13 of you currently in chat. Absolutely amazing. We never thought we'd get to this point when we started this, so massive thanks to everyone. It's
been a wild ride, a lot of fun. Dorgon, thanks for coming along. And this show, it organically evolved, right? We both became, I became into the PlayStation pony that I am today. And, we ride together into the PlayStation sunset.
Yeah, I feel I may have had a bit of a hand in that ponying up of you.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well,
but what have you got going on this week? You've got stuff happening.
Me, yeah.
Yes,
We've got family game night tonight. Gonna be rocking some Fortnite with the family on the Rudix channel. Link in the description below, as well as some more things in Cloud and Console. We're gonna try and build a game. So tune in Friday mornings where we'll just chat shit and try to make a game and see where that goes to. As well as on Simply Pwned Gaming. I haven't talked to him about this, so who knows if he's doing it or not, but hopefully we are. Getting into some BG3 Murder Run today. That's usually Wednesdays, so check out Simply Pwned Gaming in the chat. And Stream Element Bot will be chasing you into the new year.
I'm going to have nightmares about Stream Element Bot running after me now.
Well, thanks everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to check out social media because we'll have some awesome things happening on our last episode next week. And until then, be kind and bring peace into the world.
Take care, guys. Bye.
All right, roll those credits.
To believe in me. Why try? Do I even need to? I die with the season leaves. I glide with the season breeze. True, my mind so easily spooked. I ride just to be the me who finds hype super decently smooth. Nice type, but as sick as me.